Welcome to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, bringing baby boomers proven strategies and innovative products for getting fit, staying fit, so you can live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Here's your host, best-selling author and fitness advocate, Phil Faris.
Welcome to our show. Although baby boomers are credited with starting the fitness revolution in America, their lifestyle has created a generation where 20% have diabetes, 39% are obese, and 70% are overweight. Not quite the picture of health Jane Fonda envisioned in the 60s when she made all those workout videos. For years, experts have been telling boomers that the solution to these health conditions is lifestyle choices. Boomers know that exercise is a key component to a longer, healthier, and happier life. In fact, a recent ART study stated that active people enjoyed an additional 16 years of healthy living than did sedentary people. Unfortunately, there is a downside to all the exercise. Many boomers end up in the ER, doctor's office, or sports medicine clinics because their bodies can't keep up with the demands placed on it. It seems that the key to enjoying the fountain of youth benefits of exercise is knowing what's right for your body. Today's guest, Mark Palmieri, knows exactly how to do that for baby boomers. Mark is owner of Palmieri Personal Training, Inc., 1millionfit.com, and current fitness director for Three Rangers Foundation. Mark also acts as a mentor for Three Ranger Whiskey. Mark has a degree in exercise science from Eastern Illinois University. He also completed his master's coursework in exercise physiology. Mark has been a personal trainer for over 30 years and has worked with a diverse population. He's worked with 6-year-olds, 89-year-olds, professional athletes, and people with special health issues. Mark has a simple philosophy: have a purpose, have a plan, and have fun. Welcome, Mark.
Oh, thank you, Phil. This is an outstanding opportunity.
I'm glad you could join me today. Now, as I mentioned, the benefits that boomers get from exercise also has some side effects or some risk involved. What's your experience been with baby boomers who want to get fit, stay fit, but without getting injured or spending time in the ER?
Yeah, that's a major point, and could potentially be the most important point. And safety in any exercise program that I'm going to do is the first and foremost priority. So, a lot of times exercise intensity can be what we think exercise should be. And the go hard or go home mentality, which, I think a lot of boomers kind of associate exercise with, is not necessarily the best way. And that's kind of when you start getting into injury risk versus reward. So in my case, again, I'm going to really start with a simple program and focusing more on the fundamentals. And in that, as we get good with the movement quality, we can have some more fun. We can increase the intensity in order to avoid those injuries. And I haven't had anybody that I've ever trained that has had a major injury, like a back herniation or a shoulder injury or hips and knees. And people listening right now are probably thinking about those body parts. So it has to be a needs assessment. And then, the specific client or prospect may have an intensity that they wish to go to. And it's on the professional to be able to identify, can we reach that intensity risk now, or do we need to wait a little bit in order to get the body a little bit more prepared?
You mentioned the movement quality. Can you clarify what you mean by that?
Yeah. So, anytime somebody comes in to as a new client, that interaction for me is always going to be very communicative, but it's also going to be physical, and we're going to look at an assessment. And the assessment that I use is called a functional movement screen, and it basically looks at basic movement patterns like a squat or a lunge a pushing pattern. It's going to look for different mobility, and it's going to test for some rotational ability as well. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me a picture, and it's going to give the client a picture as well as to where, they're comfortable moving. If there's a position that they can get into that does start to cause a little bit of, say, knee pain on a squat, an easy way to test it is, just to go to the sink at your house and grab onto the sink and just kind of allow your body in an assisted fashion to move to your lowest depth that you're comfortable. And if that depth is not that far, that's okay. That's where we're going to start our process. And eventually, as a coach or as their trainer, it's my job to help them get a little bit more mobility and more strength.
Because I know that in my situation, I have some knee issues. I have some torn meniscus, and I found that I couldn't squat as deeply as I used to, just because of some functional limitations there. It was very frustrating for me because, I was always taught to go below parallel, and right now that's just something that doesn't happen. So how do you work with people like me that have some issues that limit some of their mobility?
Wow, that's a wonderful question. Well, I guess that is handled on a unique individual basis. And to answer your question specifically, knowing that, Phil, I'm going to know that you've had a history of an athletic background, and you're probably very comfortable with most of the movements if you're using terms like, we've got to go below parallel. And a lot of, science has come out now looking at the movement patterns, and I don't want to get too specific with the physiology of stuff because it gets a little muddy, but there's a lot of people that are incapable of going that low functionally anyway, just because of their bone structure. They're not allowed, they can, but they're going to be, hurting hips or knees. In your case specifically, Phil, having, bone on bone in your meniscus, a squatting pattern can still be achieved. A lot of the intensity or the vibration from, say, running or something like that is probably going to hurt a little bit more like on an impact scenario. But to get you to find out what your depth would be, so we would test you in a functional movement pattern squat, and we'd see how low you can go before that knee pain starts to kind of give you a little bit of a warning sign. And then at that point, we're going to be able to know, hey, this is going to be your squat range for right now. And I always say for right now because it's been amazing at the change that can occur, even with bone-on-bone meniscus and the various issues that our audience may feel. It's pretty amazing to see the ability over time of the body to adapt and change.
Okay. So besides the lunge and the squat patterns, what other assessments do you do to help make sure that the people will exercise in an effective and efficient way?
Yeah, that's absolutely important. So, in the aging process, we're looking a lot with mobility stuff. And I've become very interested, and I guess you could say borderline obsessed with posture. And, my clients all know that. They know that I'm a very specific coach on posture. And, one of the other assessments that we'll use is an arm mobility test. And we're looking for your upper body arm mobility. You mentioned a lot of boomers maybe making trips to the ER, and the shoulder area is one of the common areas that also is very prone to injury. So with the arm mobility assessment, we can find out, how high or how far overhead is somebody capable of pushing. And let's just say it's related to doing household chores, like reaching up and doing something by the laundry, where you have to reach up and grab the laundry detergent, and an overhead pressing motion is an important thing that we need to be able to do. And we do lose some arm mobility with age, but without an assessment to really find that out and just to jump right into a workout, you can run into some problems. So the upper body arm mobility assessment is probably one of the bigger ones that I focus on. And then there's also an impingement test that I'll do just to clear any lower back issues with people. Some of our boomers might be familiar with the cobra pose in yoga, basically lying down and putting your hands, kind of almost like in a push-up position, and then very slowly just allowing your chest to come off the ground while you're leaving your hips down and assessing for back pain. Is there any massive pain right there? And if there is, we tend to avoid some lower back stuff for a little bit until we get that checked out by a doc. But it's amazing at how well people move without pain when they're coached properly to do it in an assessment. And if we see that, then we can move on to the more traditional, I guess, a little bit more fun topics.
Okay. Well, it seems like what you're doing when you're doing this assessment is, one, you're looking for areas of pain, which can be like a red flag to watch, and the other is limitations in mobility as well as effective mobility to see what they can and can't do before you start prescribing a specific exercise or exercise program. Is that pretty accurate?
That is that's a perfect summary. I can't beat that.
Now, in order for people to really understand your enthusiasm and a commitment to fitness, maybe you can just share a little bit how you got started in this industry 11 years ago, or I think as you said, you've been in it for about 11 years. So how did you get started?
Yeah, well, I've always been athletic by nature. I think that's how a lot of trainers end up starting. And, one of the things that kind of happened to me is I've always really been interested in the concept of bodybuilding. And I was a smaller kid, and I thought that it was kind of a cool concept or a unique concept that you could exercise and actually change the way your body looked. And I hate to say it, but originally I was very looks oriented. I was very looks motivated to where, I didn't have to be the scrawny guy anymore. I could have a little bit of a muscular physique. And so then I started to read a little bit and lift. And I started lifting when I was probably freshman in high school. And, one of the things that happened when I was a sophomore in high school was I was in a strength and conditioning class, and I was pretty strong at that point. And you obviously have a test day, when you're people can always relate to that test day, whether it's the mile run or in this case, it was a squat day. And this can be actually relatable, whether it's a young person or an old person, anywhere in there, we're all pretty competitive. And the thing that I did was I put way too much weight on the bar. Form really wasn't coached that well. And I ended up hurting my back. And, down the road, I found out that it was considered spinal stenosis, which, some of our boomers probably are dealing with, a narrowing of the spinal column. And I was told my spine is the same as an 89-year-old. And I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting, and it was really, it was really due to just bad form. And I became very interested in form. I didn't really think about it before. And unfortunately, it kind of takes us to get injured to think about that. But I started to really think about exercise form, became very interested in that and did a lot of research. And, went to college as a business major because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. And I was talked out of it. I was by one of my instructors, and ended up changing my major the end of my freshman year to exercise science, and never looked back. So just very interested in actually an injury to myself is what really kind of started the process of learning how to coach myself and then other people after that.
Well, I can relate to that because I played sports for a number of years, and then after I turned 50, I started having injuries. And so I couldn't take working out for granted. I had to learn different approaches and different ways to get the same kind of results. And, before that, I just took it for granted because I figured my body would always take care of myself. But when you start getting injuries and other factors, then things like form and how often and the intensity and frequency start making a big difference. I could no longer abuse my body. So that spurred on my learning process of fitness after 50. Let me back up just a second and say, I've been to your facility, and it's pretty unique, and you've got all types of people and groups going on. But let's talk a little bit about what attracted you to start working with boomers, because not every trainer likes to work with them. So why do you like working with boomers?
Oh, great question. Well, I just believe when I take on anybody that it's a very individualized scenario for me. And the concept of boomers and age, I forget who my very first client was that was a baby boomer, but I could certainly tell you that the people that I'm working with now, not my name for their own disclosures, but I just became enamored with the personalities of the people that I was working with and the mental connection. The boomers that I work with, I mean, I would love to go out and have a tall adult beverage with them any day of the week. And there's something to be said about that and their mentality. And I guess let me go back a step, because it wasn't always like that. One of the clients that I worked with specifically was basically peer pressured by his son to come in and work out. And it was originally going to be a one-time thing, and then he was going to go back to his house and replicate the workout I showed him and then come back whenever he needed assistance. And that changed very rapidly after the first workout or that assessment I was talking about, because, we were talking through a bunch of different things, and he had a very specific goal of he wanted to feel more healthy. And that's a pretty big statement for me as a competitive person and somebody who cares about people. When I hear something like that, I mean, I'm throwing everything I got at you. And I don't mean that in an intimidating way. I mean it in a toolbox way. I wanted to provide this specific client with as many options and tools as I possibly could to get him to feel more healthy. And in this specific instance, we're talking knee pain, we're talking lower back pain, and we're talking cervical neck pain, like up in your neck region. And I hear pain, and even with you, Phil, when you say that you're in pain, my immediate reaction is maybe it's a little bit of white knight syndrome, but I want to get you out of that as soon as possible. And I am not a physical therapist. Trainers walk that fine line every day. If there's pain that I do not understand or can't help you with, I will refer you in a heartbeat, because your safety is way more important to me than my ego. I will always assure you that. But man, it was really brilliant to kind of watch his progress and showing him his, I'll do little pictures or videos at the client's, discretion if they let me do that, but I'll show them their progress. And when I showed him where he started in his squat pattern and how initially awkward it may have felt to where he is now with 0 knee pain and 0 back pain and 0 neck pain, it was amazing. And if that was the only thing I did for this individual, I would have felt highly accomplished with it. But we train 3 days a week now, and I'm excited for every session that we have. So we're bright and early in the morning, and it starts my day. And my boomers are my early, committed, I call them my little butt kickers, man. And there's a lot of life. Yeah, that's what I call them. Yeah, they're my motivators. But a couple of we've involved ourselves in business together now on a few occasions. One of my clients is actually also does the accounting for me. One of my boomer clients, another one of my favorite clients. So, yeah, that's a long answer. I apologize for it, but the stories, I'm in for the story. I'm in for the long haul.
Well, I think that demonstrates the connection and commitment you have with your clients. It's not just come in, get the workout done, and get out. It's about the person. So that I've seen that in how you approach your clients, and that's really important. Now, there's a lot of boomers out there that haven't worked with a personal trainer before. In fact, they may be a little intimidated about thinking about working with a trainer. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions they may have about working with one?
Yeah, that's another great question. And first of all, I don't blame anybody who has a little bit of an intimidation factor there, especially involving or actually giving up some physical ability, right? If you're going to seek out the advice or to potentially work with a trainer, that's a really big, vulnerable position. And so I don't blame anybody for that. And I think it demands a very specific approach and, maybe a little pregame knowledge before you start doing that. So one of the misconceptions would be that it's going to be really hard. Probably the biggest misconception. And this is going to be specific to the trainer that you're working with. So I would encourage anybody who's going to go find a trainer, whether it's me or anybody else, is to have a conversation with them and get the expectations out there and be okay with admitting where, some of the pain spots are and that kind of stuff. But, the first misconception would be that it's going to be really hard. It shouldn't be. The first time you go in and see somebody, it shouldn't be hard at all. In fact, it should be pretty easy. It should be a little bit of a conversation. It should be a little bit of a movement assessment, and then you should walk out of there feeling really good. That would be the first thing I would say is you should be excited. Definitely a fear factor and intimidation, that's a normal feeling, but you should be excited for it and the opportunity to feel better and move better and do whatever you want to do better. Fitness is the key. So it shouldn't be hard. It should be fun. And, when it's a fun process and you combine that process with good, smart programming, then you get some pretty great results. So those would kind of be my main tips.
Okay. Well, when you mentioned smart programming, can you give me an example of what that might look like? Because, your kind of programming might be different than another trainer's programming. And if someone's never had a program written out for them, they have no idea what we're talking about. So you're saying, I meet with them, I understand what they're trying to accomplish, I understand the physical limitations they've got, the physical goals that they've got. Now I'm going to do smart programming. What does that look like, and what might a client experience working with you on that?
Yeah, great question. So to clarify, that's wonderful. Actually, that's important. So to clarify programming, and this is the ultimate debate in the trainers community. Every trainer has their program. So again, smart programming to me is based off of their movement capabilities and their energy level and their goals, right? So if somebody comes in and they're training and there's the first day, right, we go through that assessment and then we kind of send them home, right? You're feeling pretty good. The next day, we're just going to basically add on to what we did day one. We may have an extra exercise added in. We may incorporate some core exercise. So for example, you might come in, you may do 10 full body squats for whatever, you're capable of doing. You may do 10 band rows. So most people are familiar with the rubber elastic band. So we're going to go through your row pattern and we're going to do 10 of those. We're going to turn you around. We may do 10 band pushes where you're now pushing and you're using your chest muscles. and you're working on your push form and your core stability. And then we might do 10 rotations with the band on each side, where now you're holding the band and you're doing a rotational movement pattern. So essentially you're moving in all these different planes of movement. So it's not just a program that makes you walk forward and backwards really efficiently. This is a program that's going to help you move side to side better, and it's going to help you rotate better. And
Mark, why is that important? I mean, a lot of places have machines where it's stationary and you go, and you're talking about moving laterally and back and forth. Why is that important, especially for boomers, to be able to move in all those directions?
Yeah, it's amazing. When you do the assessment, you'll find that typically, in the aging process, you're going to lose the rotational ability. And one of my favorite assessments that I do on people that I don't really tell people I'm doing, so here's another trick, is to simply walk, and I'll analyze how they walk. And some of the boomers listening to this might do this later, but if you just walk towards a mirror, watch how you move and see if you're rotating as you walk. Are your arms swinging and rotating, or are you kind of moving from side to side? Is one of your hips hurting a little bit more? Are you favoring a side? But one thing that happens is actually just in the walk pattern is we lose some of our ability to turn on some of the neurological system. And again, I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but a simple walking pattern can reset the ability to move. It's kind of cool. It's a neurological thing, but if you can walk more efficiently with good posture, that's a great way to start working out. So I don't know if that directly answered your question, Phil, or if that's just an idea of something that I would use to better understand the importance of it. But the selectorized machines, there's definitely a place for those, and you can add strength. And that's a really nice thing to do, is to add strength. But the difference between, machine strength and then functional strength, again, the functional person is, think of more of that farmer who's been working in a farm field their whole life. They're functionally a little bit tighter and they can kind of move a little bit better sometimes versus the person who's been running on a treadmill or doing an elliptical, So being able to move not just forward and backwards, but side to side and then in a rotational pattern, it's very important with how I use the term smart programming.
Good idea. Yeah, that makes sense because for most people, once they get past 50, it's about winning the game of life as opposed to winning a bodybuilding contest or something like that. They want to enjoy what they do more, with less pain, with mobility, more freedom, more flexibility, whether it be playing with the grandkids, playing softball, shooting baskets, whatever it is, gardening. They want to be able to do that with more mobility, less pain, enjoy it more. And that happens not in 2 dimensions, but in all dimensions. So that I think that's important for people to understand.
Absolutely.
Now, I guess the last question I have specifically about baby boomers is what is it that the biggest challenge that they have in accomplishing their goals? I mean, especially if they haven't been working out for a while, they're coming to you to get back in shape and have some long-term goals. What's the biggest challenge that they've got to overcome in order to really achieve those goals?
Ooh, good question. The biggest challenge, again, very unique, and each listener is probably going to have their own, preconception of what their biggest challenge is. In my experience, it's kind of interesting because their challenges are relatively easily overcome. The biggest challenge could just simply be to start the process and kind of come clean with yourself and own that, maybe exercise doesn't have to be what I kind of thought it was. Maybe it can be more for this idea of living a better and more independent life. and to be self-reliant, right? Like, I think a lot of boomers, it's a pre-knowledge that there's going to be some more activity there. They want to be productive. They want to be able to do things. They don't want to have other people doing it for them, you know? And there was a study, it was out of Boston, you know, they showed some people that I think they were 85 years or older that came in, and they did, you know, they were in using walkers, and they came in and did for like 10 weeks. They did, you know, some of the basic movements, Phil, not even the ones we were talking about, the functional ones. We're talking about some basic, I believe, machine-based movements. And then they were able to go from their walker to their cane, you know, and that's a big win right there. You know, now they're a little bit more independent. So I think, you know, one of the biggest things would be is just to get started, you know, and as long as you have confidence and trust with your trainer and you have an open line of communication. And I gotta tell you a quick story here too, because I was asking some of my clients about kind of why they continue to train with me. And, you know, one of my clients brought up the fact, she's like, Mark, it's never the exact same thing. And you can react to how I'm feeling that day. And, you know, and I don't even have to tell you, you can usually tell, you know, and I don't know if every trainer can do that, but I do know a lot of trainers that you get very in tune with your client, and you know if they've slept enough, you know if they're dehydrated, you know if they're stressed out about a family thing or a work thing, or you know, if they're done working awesome, they may be stressed out about not having anything to do. You know, so there's some planning involved in that, where a smart program, we're going to back off a little bit that day. We're probably not going to be as intense as we normally would. That's a day that demands a little bit of a different style of exercise. So, you know, being okay with that, being communicative, and just starting. You know, I think that's probably the biggest thing, Phil.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people are on the verge of, and it's they're going to do it, and then weeks turn to months turn to years. Just getting started and having a trainer helps you do that. My last question about when you work out with your clients, how important is fun as part of the workout?
Man. I'll tell you this, a typical Palmieri Personal Training session, you're going to end with a smile on your face. And I do pride myself on that over 11 years. I mean, two of the main things that I pride myself on is I have not hurt somebody. And that's very important to me. I take that very seriously. I said that at the beginning, and I'll say it again just to summarize. But yeah, I mean, we have a blast. Again, it's the stories that go back and forth. And as we become more comfortable with ourselves, this usually happens after it's not that long. It'll happen after like week 2, maybe a little longer, depending on the individual. But I'm determined to find out what they enjoy, because it's tough in fitness to kind of find what people enjoy sometimes, because they think it's going to hurt, or they think it's got to be this way. And what we end up doing, and Phil, I think, you know, one of my clients, you know, he just wanted to be a little bit more healthy, but we've turned him into an outdoorsman. You know, he's already an outdoorsman. I misspoke there. He's a very accomplished outdoorsman. He's probably way better than I am, but he's doing it without pain now. You know, so some of the stuff we'll do, you know, he likes to take out the sledgehammer and smash a tire. You know, that's something I would have never started him with when he came in shoulder pain. But you know what? His shoulder's clear, his back doesn't hurt. So, excuse me. So he likes that. So we finish with sledgehammers, you know, every time. It's something he looks forward to at the end of his workout. He knows he's going to get to smash the tire. So we end on that. I have another client that I was referring to earlier that we end on. There's this, you know, ball push out series where she's in a plank position, or kind of like a, you know, if you can imagine you're on your forearms and you're in a modified push up basically on your forearms, but I'll put her on a one of those stability balls, and I make her push this ball out, and we do 300 of those, you know, And, I've got some younger clients that are 19 that can barely do 20, and this individual is doing 300, and she's a boomer and she's in rocking it, and then we go up. We've been as high as 400 because we like to challenge it. So, yeah, Phil, I can't overemphasize the fact that, fun comes with safety, fun comes with results, and really having that connection with your trainer. And so again, encourage everybody, if you're going to go do the training thing, which I highly do suggest, just make sure you do have some type of rapport and connection with your trainer, and you feel comfortable with that person, because it makes a difference.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you for sharing your enthusiasm, your commitment to fitness, and your insights. I'm sure our listeners benefit from that. If people want to connect with you or get more information on your fitness center, where should they go?
Yeah, so you can, you can simply Google Palmieri Personal Training Inc., and that'll pull it up. Or
want to spell that for us?
I was going to say my last name's kind of difficult to just go ahead and sound out. So it's P as in Paul, A-L, M as in Mark, I-E-R-I, and then Personal Training, I-N-C. So that's an easy way. If you Google that, or my email address is palmieripersonaltraining@gmail.com. And whether you're in the area or not, feel free to reach out and send an email. I'm pretty good about getting back to you within 24 hours, and no question's a dumb question. So I'm available.
Mark, thank you very much, and you have a fabulous day.
Thank you, Phil.
You've been listening to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, hosted by Phil Faris. To learn more about the guests or resources on our show today, or to listen to past episodes, go to nevertoolateforfitness.com.